Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Wings Podcast. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri. On today's show, we will meet Mangesh Thombare, who currently works as team lead and senior faculty at Seamedu School of Pro Expressionism, where he heads the game art and design department. Before joining Seamedu, he was working as an independent game designer for video games and board games. Mangesh also runs two communities, where he hosts board games for general public to spread awareness on this form of education and entertainment. Welcome, Mangesh, to this episode of Wings Podcast.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Mangesh. Game design is a very niche field, is what I would like to understand. I'm a novice and a very naive person here. Neither do I do gaming, nor do I do design in the classical sense. So why don't we begin our conversation by understanding what is game design?
Okay. I mean, it's a when someone asks me what is game design, I would like to say that it's something that people and so designing. I don't think I need to explain what designing is, but I would like to focus on the game part of game design. And game is something that people like to do actions while they're doing those actions, they enjoy, they get fun out of it. There are other aspects also, like learning, and there are multiple types of funs involved in it also. But what I would say, it's something that you do, like players or like you as a person enjoy doing something while enjoying it. So it's a very, I mean, I'm trying to keep it non-technical, but I don't know if that answers your question.
I mean, yes, in the sense that, I know when you say game design, I mean, gaming, for example, I mean, I would, this, I presume you're truly referring to things like video games and computer games, isn't it? So what is this whole canvas of gaming, if we can, get to some basics there?
Okay. So now, so when people talk about like games, they usually mean the digital forms of games, which is the most popular, I would say, media of games, like video games on PCs, consoles like Xbox and PS4, or nowadays the handheld devices games are more popular. Like you have mobile phones in literally everyone's hand, so the games have evolved and have been there since very long, actually, on mobile phones also. But there is a part of games which I also many people actually tend to not look into, is physical board games. That's where actually the games evolved, right? Like mobile games are quite recent. What were they? Or even computers are quite recent, for that matter. What were they? What was the medium for them? People who were in their 70s, 80s, what were they doing? There were a lot of physical board games which were actually made in those games. And I think if we go back in the times of Mahabharata, we had board game where the reference of board game is there in Mahabharata also. So that is also part of game when it comes to game design. So games have been there since very long, as much as we can remember. Games and sports are always been part of our human history, is what I would like to say.
I have grown up, since you mentioned a little while ago about the form of entertainment people in the 70s and 80s had, and I actually belong to that generation where
Yes.
I was in my teens and early stage of life then, and we were probably playing this game called Vyapar, which is nothing but the
Yes.
form of I guess Monopoly board
Yes.
game, and the
Yeah.
Indianized version of the Monopoly. Or we would play probably the traditional snakes and ladders and probably Ludo here and there, but that's about it. I mean, within no time, the 2 or 3 board games that we had were over, and we would switch to cards, playing cards, and
Yes.
all that stuff. But I'll tell you, 2 years back, Mangesh, I was in the US, visiting Rahul, my son, and this was around the Thanksgiving time, end of November, and we were invited for a Thanksgiving function at somebody's home. These are like Indian American families, and of course, Thanksgiving, as you know, in the US is a big thing, where families
Yes.
come together. And by the time we landed up, we were just welcomed. We had a welcome drink, and within an hour or two, whilst on one side the food was getting cooked, on the other side there were a whole lot of board games which were very difficult to understand, and there were so many of them. It was an Airbnb that the whole family had rented, and there was a cupboard full of board games. So I don't know. While in India we are probably familiar with two or three, but it seems in the West,
Yes.
board
Yes.
games have been the way of life for many, many years.
Yes. Yes. I think there are a couple of aspects to it. Like, I mean, one of the reasons I like to tell people when they ask me like why are these board games not very known to people in India is like, uh, I mean, it's going to be a very weird reason, but I think it's the weather. If you ask me, in West, in Europe, and in Canada, US, it snows a lot. So people had to find something entertaining inside their houses. So they found the media, which is tabletop games and board games and card games. Our weather is quite good. We can go outdoors, and that's why I think probably we are encouraged to go out and play a sport, um, and not some sit inside and play games, probably. But that is one of the reasons that I like to tell everyone that maybe that was one of the reasons why board games evolved a lot in those times, in those areas of the world. But there can be but I would really like to say that we are kind of, if you ask for my personal opinion, I think we are at least 15 years behind what the board game designers and even the board games that are there in those Western countries. But it's slowly changing. It's slowly changing. The communities building up, and many people are now started making board games and playing board games. I think COVID has helped a lot when it comes to playing physical board games. People were at home, so they explored different medias of playing and playing with friends, and I think that has been one of the reasons why India is now growing up in the field of board games.
But apart from the medium, for example, we have the screen-based games and the
Hmm.
board games. One
Hmm.
fundamental difference is one is digital and one is physical. But
Yes.
as a game designer and being in a
Hmm.
field of this for so many years, what
Yes.
is it that you see as a fundamental difference between these two forms of entertainment and fun, the screen based
Okay.
and the physical
Okay.
one?
Okay. Physical board games, I think the major difference, rather than just the physicality, like you play physically and you play digitally, I think the major difference, and something that I personally prefer, like you play board games with friends or family, you play it with other people. There's a saying in our board game community where, like, it's not the board game that makes the time fun, it's actually the people you play with. And it's a very important, in my opinion, it's whoever you play with is the most important part of the game. The most important part of any game is actually the player. So you have to play it with some players, and that interaction between those people actually makes a board game fun. When it comes to digital platform, usually, yes, there are multiplayer games. Yes, there are many games where you can play online with friends abroad and families outside India and everything. But essentially the medium was created to enjoy as a, something is, you can play it alone. And I think digital board video games were created to make people explore something that they think they cannot do. For an example, there can be a video game which lets you climb a Mount Everest, and because it is something that is not possible for every single human. Or the video games will let you drive an F1 car in a game. That is one of the major differences between board games and video games, is what I think.
And how did this world of gaming happen to you? Was it by chance or was it by choice?
Yeah, actually, I would say that I was lucky, that I had access to computers at very early age of my life. I think I got access to computer when I was 3.5, because of my aunt who used to, I mean, I call her aunt, but she was a neighbor, and she used to teach computer science in SP College, Pune. And she made my mother learn some, data entry software so that she can work with her. And that's how a first computer came into my house. I was 3.5 that time. the only thing that I could do on that computer was play something. I started with games, but I ended up, using those basic softwares that used to come. There was not even Windows that time. I think the first computer that I used had a DOS, and there's one software which I remember was Logo, which I used even after I mean, in I used it till 1994. Like, I had a computer which was like very old computer, and 95, 96, I think. And the Logo taught you how to draw things. It was a geometry based software. Like, you have to write a command and it would show circles, rectangle. And so that's where I think I got a lot of interest. And I think for the first initial years of my life, everyone around me supported me with the games, like the I mean the with playing games. None of them stopped me from playing games. And I think I was lucky in that section. Some people are not, but no, I wasn't looking at games as career until I got into my 7th 8th standard, where I started enjoying. I could see that I'm enjoying games. I used to play video games every day on computer. Probably the reason why I have specs today is a computer and a games. But then I thought, there's something that I'm liking a lot, and I really wanted to do something in this area, which was not known to me or my parents. All my cousins and sisters and everyone is into engineering. We know that there's computer science, and people were saying, okay, go to computer science, go to computer science. But I wasn't really sure if I'll be able to kind of pick up coding as my primary thing. I kept jumping around. I think I did my 12th, but I didn't appear for the CT because I knew I didn't want to do engineering. Then I did diploma in electronics, and then again, I had no option but to go for engineering. So I had taken admission in engineering, and that's when I actually start. I mean, by that time we had a very good internet access and information was flowing in. So I I found a course where it was purely game design, where I did not have to use my engineering skills, for example, like coding skills. So, and that is something that I found interesting. I didn't tell my parents. I gathered my own money to fill the form for the college, and I gave my entrance exam on my own, and then I showed, okay, like, I'm kind of selected in this college, can I go? And that's how I actually got into this course. I was 1 year away from completing my engineering degree. Like, I was in my third year, and I wasn't doing bad at all. I was a decent student in engineering. I loved maths from the beginning, so I never had problems in physics and maths, to be honest. So my parents were like, complete your engineering and then do what you want. But I knew that if I missed this chance, probably I wouldn't be able to get into this course. So I decided to quit engineering and then go for this game design course. I think that was one of the decision that I'm kind of very proud of, that I decided to quit engineering and follow what I really wanted to do.
How was
Today
this?
when
How was it received at home? Because quitting engineering
uh
just with a
yes,
year to go is a big thing in India.
yes. So I think I had to convince a lot. I took a lot of convincing, but I think my parents could see that I'm not really enjoying whatever I'm doing. I was bunking college, and I was I mean, I used to go to college at 5:30 in the evening to ask what happened in the college today and play football. That's it. I was constantly searching for it. They could see that. I think they got convinced once I showed them the entrance exam car results, where I got elected in the I got selected in the exam, the entrance exam. But even after that, I think it's only parents mind, like they said, okay, you wasted like our 3 years of money, what? And it sometimes it stays in your head also, that you wasted your diploma plus 3 years of engineering. You're not going to use that knowledge. But I don't think I wasted any of my time, because I was constantly doing something in my video games. Today when I look at my game design career, or as a game design as a career, I think I those 6 years were actually crucial for my whatever or wherever I am today, because those 6 years I managed to play 1,000 games. And playing games is the most important thing when you want to design a game. You need to know what your consumer is going to like, what your player is going to like. And I've played so many games today that I can, like, I don't think it's a waste of time when I played games during those engineering years.
Let me be a devil's advocate here, and I'll tell you where
Yes.
I'm coming from. I'm coming from the role of a parent, a father,
Yes.
because I've seen
Yes.
my son also growing up by playing games, and it happens to everybody. I mean, and nothing
Yes.
surprising about it. But
Hmm.
somehow I have this prejudice against screen-based gaming, whether it is PC games or TV-based games or mobile games.
Hmm.
My prejudice, it is nothing but violence. You are just
Okay.
killing, and there is only
Okay.
complexity of killing. I mean, whether you go to a cyber
Okay.
cafe and you see 20, 30 kids sitting across multiple screens playing a PUBG or whatever game they call it today, where it is only
Hmm.
shooting and killing each other.
So I would like to bring your attention to this point is that again the awareness. There are tons of games which do not have any violence at all. The games that you see today, like you mentioned PUBG or Valorant, or even when we were in college, I think there was Counter Strike where people were shooting like there's a terrorist team and can all these games. Those are the games which were promoted in India by people who came from outside. Like like you how do you discover games is again a very good topic to discuss, but I'll not go there. But those are the games that people discover on their own. Someone like me, I would prefer games which has sense of discovery, for example. Or there are games like, I mean, I there was an era where everyone was sending Candy Crush request on Facebook. There was a time. Why was
Yes.
that game so popular? Was there any kind of violence in Candy Crush? No. And everyone was playing that. Even the 7 8 year old kid se leke, for 50-year-old people were playing Candy Crush. And now there was no violence, people were playing it. There was some kind of fun involved in that game too, right? So there are different ways people can enjoy the game. There are games outside the violent games. The way in India is like, I think those kind of games have come in India, and they were more approachable to the players. That's why you find them playing those games. We need a medium where we can actually see the games which are made for different types of experiences. I can probably tell you 100 names where there is 100 plus names where there is absolutely no violence, but the games are absolutely enjoying and an experience that people should not miss out on. There are games literally like games about journey of journey of a single person who's trying to discover himself. Like, the games get so philosophical, they teach you a lot. I think when you look at these games after you playing, and when you think about this, okay, what was this, what did I just saw, or like what did I just play? And you figure out, okay, you didn't kill a single person in this game. You did something which made only sense to you. There are nowadays games which give you choices. You can choose what adventure you want to choose. There are games where you can become someone. Like, okay, in the fantasy world, I think I want to discover different properties of plants and make potions which will help the people around the town. You can make such games. There are games like this. I personally think that it's the awareness where first factor is awareness, where people just get exposed to the one type of games, and this is very common. But if you ask me, there are couple of more aspects that I would like to show is that when we see violent games, we directly try to put a wall, like, okay, don't play violent games. But instead of that, instead of stopping someone from playing something, can you give option number 2? Can you try this? Have you tried this? And I think that helps a lot. I think I have always been doing that. Where today when I'm teaching, a lot of parents come to me and ask me, our our son keeps playing this one game all the time, and he tells that I'm in game design, so I have to play games. So they come to me, I tell them, okay, send them to me, and I start maneuvering those people into some other types of games. And you know uh, most of the times it works.
So it's not just video gaming or computer gaming is just not about Counter Strike or Honor of Killings or Coin Master, right?
Definitely not.
Where the invitation is to say that attack and raid a fellow Viking, and
Yes.
spin to earn your loot, and those kind of invitations which
Yeah.
are there. There is something
Okay.
much more than
Okay.
that, isn't it?
Definitely. 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 I
So
would
if I
like
were to
to.
ask you, Mangesh, you said you've played hundreds of games, from your teens up till now, and probably the number
Yes.
can be much larger than that. If I
Yes.
were to ask you,
Hmm.
as a gamer, not as a game designer or a person who heads a game art and design department in a very prestigious, school of media and entertainment called Seamedu.
Hmm.
As a
Hmm.
gamer, what has gaming done to you, or how is it has shaped you?
I like games where there's a philosophy involved in it. I like those kind
Take
of
an
games.
example. Take an
Always.
example. Take one of your
Oh,
favorite games and let us have a
okay.
walkthrough on that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to talk about a game which is quite an old game for the recent teenagers. It's a game from 2007 called Bioshock. The game is set in underwater city where the earth is kind of destroyed, so people have gone underwater and they have built cities underwater. And I'll not go into the details who you play as, but it's a single player game where you have been accused of some crimes and you are trying to escape from that city. So there are people who are trying to catch you or kill you probably. The villain of the game actually says something, and I remember this quote when I played the game for the first time in 2007, and from that day till today I remember that quote. It says that you always make choices, but in the end your choices make you. This is the kind of statement that villain does in the game. And I mean, even today when I'm saying this statement, I can feel the goosebumps on my hands. Like, such a powerful statement he has made in the game. I always remembered this. Like, I never forgot this statement. And today I think my choices have made me for sure like where I am today. I think from that moment I stopped blaming people for not letting me do things. I used to blame my parents. You didn't let me go into arts after 10th. I could have gone into arts and I could have continued my arts. You put me in science because you thought I was made for science student. And but when I played these games and when I used to think about such statements in the games, I started taking responsibilities, is what I would say, like of whatever I have done in my life. And I think that has helped me a lot throughout my career. After that is what I would like to say. So yeah, I think uh, games have had a very, very large influence on my whatever I do right now. Is I think I can't take out video games from my life for sure.
So Bioshock gave you this big lesson that choices define you, though
Yes.
you have the power to make your choices.
Another life lesson that I would like to talk about, which I kind of learned through video games, is the sense of discovery. I think it gave me a lot of power to explore things where most of the people were kind of scared to do. I i don't know how, like personally I don't know a single person who left engineering 1 year before completing his degree and went for something which, you know to be honest, I had no idea what I would be when I left engineering. How much money my parents will need to kind of support me with that education. So I think that sense of discovery, I think I have been applying them in a way where sometimes unintentionally, sometimes intentionally, but definitely such lessons are there in video games, and people should explore them, is what I would like to say.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Mangesh, I was looking up at some research data on the gaming
Hmm.
industry, and there are two pieces of research that kind of caught my attention. One was in the mobile gaming space, and one was
Hmm.
one of the largest acquisition that happened in this industry. So let me just read
Okay.
out these two snippets, and I want to invite you to throw some light in terms of how you see it.
Okay.
One piece of data says that mobile game spending has continued to grow in the year 2021 and will reach a figure of $90 billion across the Apple's App Store and Google's Play Store.
Okay.
And roughly 75%, close to 75% of all apps that are downloaded on mobile devices, whether it is in
Hmm.
the Android ecosystem or the iOS ecosystem, are,
Hmm.
are related to games. And a staggering
Right.
revenue to Apple and Google both put together and the whole ecosystem is $90 billion. The other research was a press release that Microsoft put out early this year in January, which said, and I'm going to read out some statements verbatim. It says that with 3 billion people actively playing games today and fueled by a new generation steeped in the joys of interactive entertainment, gaming is now the largest and fastest growing form of entertainment. Today, Microsoft announced plans to acquire Activision Blizzard, a leader in game development and interactive entertainment and content publisher. What Microsoft further says that the acquisition will accelerate the growth in Microsoft's gaming business across mobile, PC, console, and cloud. Microsoft further says in the same press release that they are paying 69 billion, close to 69 billions all in cash to buy this company, and will become the world's third largest gaming company by revenue behind Tencent and Sony. This is big. This is huge, isn't it?
Definitely. So I'm big fan of Blizzard as a company. As a player, I would say I have been always fan of Blizzard. Blizzard makes a game and it becomes a trend. Blizzard have given rise to the genre we call it RTS, the real-time strategy games. They started with StarCraft 1. So this was a big acquisition for all of us as players as well as the designers, and the kind of opportunities that Microsoft has decided to open for the designers is insane, because Microsoft is kind of trying to break something that players want to see for a very long time, is the exclusivity. The thing is that there has been a cold war between Sony and Microsoft, where Sony makes games only for consoles which Sony makes, PS4, PS5, and so their games, if you want to play those games, you have to buy those consoles. So one of the major factors of sales on those games is the exclusivity of the content that is available. But with this kind of things, Microsoft is saying that, okay, we are making games for Xbox, but you can play it on PC as well, and we are going to start releasing. So Blizzard used to make games for all platforms, PC, console, Xbox, and so PS4, and PS, I mean. So even when we buy the company, we are not stopping Blizzard from making games for Sony, so they can still continue releasing their games on those platforms. And this is something that players want to see. On the developer side, we don't know. Actually, I'm not sure if you're aware of the other side of the companies, the work culture, and people have been complaining a lot about Blizzard. Blizzard faced a lot of issues. The higher authority, higher management people were fired and quit, and everything has happened. But those are the situations in bigger companies. I would say, if you want to look at game development and design as an opportunity, I think there are tons of opportunities, and people should start looking at this as a upcoming opportunity for you guys. If you want to talk about specifically about India, you mentioned the stats of Android and iOS. We are today one of the budding or upcoming country for developing those games. People are making games left, right, center in India for mobile platforms and VR platforms. The reason being that, firstly, we as Indians, we tend to learn things faster. So we learn things faster and we can make things faster. We have a lot of people available who can make things for us. So we have a lot of competition as well. So there is a big chance of improving the quality because of the competition. How can I make same thing better than someone else is going to be the key factor when you are going to look at this as an opportunity. If you want to talk about what kind of roles you will be playing when you are in this industry, I think for game designers, for 2D artists, for 3D artists, there are tons of companies in India which actually take outsourcing work. So the companies from US, Canada, they outsource work to India of the art part, where you have to create animations, models, 3D models, and you send it back. So if you are into art and making 3D models, I think that is way big. One of the companies, popular companies, has opened up 1,000-employee studio in Bangalore very recently. All big game companies have now at least one studio they are planning to have at least one studio in India. Everyone knows about some GTA, like Grand Theft Auto game, which is made by Rockstar Games. Rockstar already has a studio in Bangalore. There are things like this which are happening around you, and I don't know, many people are not aware of it. They don't look at it as a career option, but there is definitely a lot of opportunity here. And I would like to say this, that it's not an easy opportunity as well. There is going to be a competition, and it's a very demanding job. As an experience, I would like to say, when I was making a game as an independent game designer, I have worked 100 plus hours a week, and the industry demands it, because we are players, we want new things every day, we want to experience new things every day. So the companies will get competitive, companies will get on the developers head to make things faster, right? So there are pluses and minuses, but there are definitely more pluses than minuses, is what I would like to say.
So Mangesh,
And
in this
yes,
in this shadows of these billions of dollars of industry in computer
yes,
gaming and video gaming, where is the good old board game industry? Where
yes,
is that
yes,
going?
yes, definitely. Now I want to give a very I think this is something that not a lot of people are aware of, but every single video game company that we discussed today, or we mentioned today, is making a board game. All these video game companies are going back to basics and making board games, because there are multiple reasons. Initially, if you last 15 years, people used to buy CDs, and they used to put CDs in the console or a PC and play. The era of physical discs is gone. People are moving to cloud. But the thing is that having that CD used to I used to have a souvenir. Okay, I have this game, I have the CD, original CD of my game, and that increases.
Something to feel and touch.
Yes, and that kind of shows the fandom that you have. Oh, I have an original CD of my favorite game, and it's going to I can show it off to my friends. Let me tell you, showing off to other players, showing off to your competitors is a very big aspect of video games. And that kind of got killed when the era of DVDs died. Now people don't have anything to show. Oh, you have a digital key of the game, no big deal. I don't want to look at your screen. And but what they have done is, now they're converting their all video game franchise into board games, and they're creating a physical board games. Okay, so I have a board game of my favorite video game, which has miniatures. The models exactly look like video games, and I can show it off in my showcase. If you come to my house, oh, see, this is my video game board game of my favorite video game franchise. So that is one reason, I'm just mentioning it. But video board game uh, revenue is also increasing. There are multiple crowdfunding websites who have come up, and people are funding games left, right, center. Like I'm talking about board games, just board games, not even a single digital media involved there. And if you want to talk about opportunities in India, many people are now, I think again, have started making these board games in India. We are not where we should be, I would say. We are definitely years behind what the board game industry is in Germany or US or Canada is. But we have started growing. There are opportunities for every single designer, artist in the field of board games. It's something that you should totally explore if you are looking into and I would say an expressive field where you can express yourself. You can definitely express yourself from through video games and board games. I mean, that is one of my ideas behind making video games, that I am making game to express myself. Because I personally always thought that I was not very good at communicating through the normal ways, like talking or writing. But I can definitely pitch my ideas through. I can create an experience that I would have loved to have to others. And I think that is a very good way of communicating with the people that I want to communicate with.
Undoubtedly. I mean, this is such a fascinating world, a world of fantasy, a world of dreams, a world of imagination,
Yes.
where I guess you work across various facets of human behavior, right? You talked about adventure, you
Yes.
talked about exploration, you talked
Yes.
about things like Candy Crush, where there is no violence, there is no sense,
Yes.
but the sense of
Yes.
achievement is very different.
Yes.
There are friendship kind of games. So I guess In many
Yes.
ways, games represent a projection of humans' need to feel and express themselves, as you very rightly said. So,
Definitely.
in this at this cusp of this huge opportunity that is available to you at a young age and stage in life that you are in, if I were to ask you, Mangesh, what is it that you are dreaming for yourself in this world which expects you to dream, which is gaming?
What I would like to see is probably people using games as media, or I mean games as a medium of not just uh, entertainment, but there is more to it. I would like to I mean, creating experiences is my goal, and I think that is something that people should do. Like, you can create different experiences which people crave for, and I think that is something that I would like to see happening a lot in India, at least.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mangesh, this has been a very, very different kind of a conversation with you over the last, 35 odd minutes, and I have
Yes.
enjoyed every bit of it. And in probably this conversation, in some ways, is probably a game that has got played between you and I, which is
Yes.
fairly an unscripted drama, if I can call it. So it has
Definitely.
been a fun ride for me. How has it been for you?
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed I mean, the some of the questions, I mean, some of the conversations reminded me of the older games, like 2007, 11. uh and when I was talking about those games, literally I got goosebumps couple of times when I was I was talking about these games, and they reminded me of things. They reminded of me of people, and they also reminded me, okay, this is where you have to go, you want to go, you have decided this. So it was a very different experience. I don't think I communicate a lot. I'm a very reserved person that way, and I think this was a very good way of uh I think this is the first time I've tried communicating what I feel about video games and board games. So I definitely enjoyed this a lot.
Do you still have your Pokemon cards?
uh I was not a big fan of Pokemon, but I have Pokemon cards, and I also have 100 more board games and card games, which
Wow.
I do not want to give away. Like, people say that you don't play this game anymore, you want to give it away. I said, no, this is my, I'm a collector. I like to collect things. So yeah, this is my treasure. I will never give it away.
This is your asset. You can part away with anything in life, but for the hundreds of board games that are there in your cupboard. Wonderful,
Definitely.
Mangesh. Wonderful. Thank you very much for your
Yes.
time, and
Yes.
wish you good luck. Wish you all the success,
Thank
and
you.
take care. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host Milind Agnihotri signing off. Goodbye. Take care and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75 at gmail.com. Thank you.